Good morning. That was a beautiful prayer, really setting the intention. Isn't this interesting? Here's my friends right here. No, it's just interesting, the weight of the room. There's this section, and then there's this, and there's this, the community, and this. And then there's that, people back there. Oh, interesting. But yes, you are. Yes, you are. I had a special seat for you right up here. No, it's just the energy in the room. Thank you. So you can change the world. So a wonderful topic, so important that I really want to say some words today that are inspired by the one that really are take-home words that will shift you into recognizing how truly important you are and that you're born into this time for a reason. And yesterday I received a message from our leader for Centers for Spiritual Living, Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon, and he starts this off saying, affirming our oneness as a human family. So I wanted to share it with you because I know we're all feeling very much aware of what's going on out in our world. He starts it by saying, earthquakes, fires, and floods are affecting people around the globe. As Mexico digs out of its second earthquake this month, Centers for Spiritual Living stands in prayerful support to the people of Mexico, as well as our community members and our centers that are affected there. Every time we are faced with a global or natural crisis, we have the opportunity to hear the call of love and life. In these times of political divisiveness, closing borders, and social violence, whether between nations or within a country, when disaster strikes, we are all affected. Let us once again take this as an opportunity to affirm our oneness as a human family. Let us declare our commitment to love and support one another. We allow our common humanity to reach across the divides as we find powerful and creative ways to help those in harm's way. Let us also take this as an opportunity to recognize that we are part of the whole living system. We share this world with all living beings, and we include our planet and all beings as it is a part of this precious oneness. In the same way, we can destroy our environment with a negative impact, our forests and seas, and create climate change, but we can also affirm that we are capable of creating a healthy, sustainable life upon this earth. Today, Centers for Spiritual Living calls upon every one of us to see beyond our own lives and the relationship to the whole and become more aware of the interconnectedness of all life. We are called to reach out, not close down. We are called to love, not separate. We are called to action, not complacency. Like the butterfly effect, we realize that what happens anywhere around the globe affects each one of us. Spirit's wisdom, God's intelligence, and the will of life, of love guides every one of us to reach out a helping, prayerful hand to our neighbor, to our planet. Mexico, our prayers are with you, and we stand ready to help. Florida and the Gulf of Mexico, Puerto Rico, to the islands, our prayers are with you, and we are willing to help. To all of those in the different places of our country on fire, California, Washington, Oregon, Montana, British Columbia, and into the world, Nova Scotia, Greece, Brazil, Portugal, Algeria, Tasmania, Greenland, Siberia, and then we go on to storms in Texas, Florida, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sierra Leone, and Niger, all experiencing massive floods. Italy, France, Spain, Switzerland, Hungary, Poland, Romania, Bosnia. I should have you doing these, Lori. She reads these countries beautifully. Croatia, Serbia are crushed in the depth of a triple-digit heat wave. They call it Lucifer. In the chilly August, the city of San Francisco had record heat of 106 degrees, while it reaches 115 in the south of the city, and Northern California continues to bake. Remember, he ends his note, love guides every one of us to reach out a helping, prayerful hand to our neighbor and our planet. Many blessings to you all. Dr. Ken Gordon. I love that man. He speaks with such authority, and he's able to pull some of our concerns together in a way that we can apply our prayers in a more succinct way. And along with that, the SCIF, the Shasta County Interfaith Forum, one of the ministers sent out a list from Weaverville. The Lions Club has requests. So for the people that lost their homes in those fires, and I left that with Marilyn at the board desk, if you have some of those items, another small way to give what you have in surplus to those that lost it all. So you can change the world. Do you know that? Do you really know that? Do you really recognize how important it is that you were born at this time? We sometimes think that what's going on in our community or in our world is different than what it was many, many thousands of years ago as well, but there's always been conflict. There's always been discord of one type or another. But I was reading in the book that I share with you today is Andrew Harvey. He's a social spiritual activist, and I love his words and his wisdom. He's a wonderful guide in my own life, and he writes this book called The Hope, and it's a guide to sacred activism. And I found his words penetrating as I read through it this week and preparing to speak with you, and I hope I do his words justice, because he was reminding us. It all begins, as we've said so many times this past month, as we spoke about service to the world, it begins with that deep connection to spirit and to love, to know that you can change the world. And I appreciate Damien's reading. Those were selected by the Centers for Spiritual Living to share with you on this day. And there's an idea that Gandhi says, and you've heard this, be the change you wish to see in the world. Is that familiar to you with Sweet Gandhi's picture? I found out that as most things, that kept getting pared down, so those weren't actually his exact words. Close enough to his exact words were, if we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. We need not wait to see what others will do. Be the change you wish to see in the world is what that has become in bumper sticker style. So there's a formula for change, and many wonderful, when you check on the website, what can I do? There's many wonderful sites out there that you can offer your time and service to as well. But there was a formula for change that can be used for anything in your world. The first step is just to notice. Wake up and notice what's happening in the world. Oftentimes I hear people say, I don't pay attention to the news. And that is fine, but you know, it's going to come to you one way or another, right? Whether you turn a channel on, there's the idea that we're electromagnetic human beings, and there is a field of consciousness that we cannot help but be part of. And so as that goes out into the waves of information, into the ethers, we pick up. We pick it up from conversation. We pick it up from just a quick walking by somebody or seeing a headline. Our heart is always drawn to pay attention to the outer world, and there's a call with that, and that's asking you to pay attention, not to bury our head. Just as we're always asked in our spiritual journey of ourself, never to bury our head to the shadow of who we are. If we are working inside of ourselves with different pieces of our personality, or that what has shaped us, or we feel is something that we want to hide from another, the moment you turn to that and use it as a tool for your growth, and you really explore it to its depth, it becomes your empowerment. And so here too, the world is asking us to wake up and pay attention, to look deeply into the eyes of suffering, into the eyes of the fire, into the eyes of the earthquakes, in such a way to go ahead and let your heart weep. Go ahead, let yourself weep. It's painful. But in that weeping, find the answers. Find where you break wide open. And the divine light, that place of truth, when you are humbled to that moment where you drop to your knees because you cannot bear any more suffering, there is the divine speaking to you about what you can do. So you wait and you listen in the depth of that silence and that perhaps moments of suffering yourself. As you peer into suffering, you find your answer. So you choose after you wake up, you choose and you decide to get involved and you think about, well, what are my options? What is an alternative I have here for dealing with the situation? You take the time and you think about a course of action, any small thing that you can do that could serve another. And you just ask, can I do that? Am I willing to take the time as I pass by the board desk to even look at that list that another minister put together for our people in Weaverville? And then the third step for change is to take action. It is your time now to be the instrument of change. And what do we create when we are in that place of change? We're liberating ourselves. We are liberating ourselves from a self-imposed limitation of our mind. Because when we think, I cannot do anything, not little old me, that's a limitation, right? But when we burst out of that, what can you do? We can create peace and we can create connection from the inside out. When we're willing to reverently, generously listen to another human being and really try to listen without trying to change their opinion or their ideas, to just be with it, watch it, because that's when your heart, if it's a view that you do not agree with, you'll watch your heart shrink back in. The invitation here is to keep breathing and to keep your heart open so that you create that divine conduit, that channel of listening, generous listening. All people want is to be heard and to be seen. And when we can start doing that for our fellow man, we start to change. We start to offer in a more gentle way where ears can hear, eyes can see, a way that change can happen. We find a place of common ground. And when we stand on common ground, the world begins to shift beneath our feet. So we turn our pain and our contraction into power. We replace what felt hopeless and filled with fear, we replace that with kindness and compassion. And what does that do? It begins to create the world that you dream of. And think about that. Think about the power, when you're using the power of the one. When we pray here, we start our prayer recognizing that there's only one divinity, one source, one truth, one God over all. And it can be named in any faith path a different name, but we know it's only one. And oftentimes, because it's so nameless, we lean into it as love. And so as we allow that love to be expressed and we allow ourselves to be that connection, those are our first two steps of our prayer. Prayer is very important here. If you do nothing else but pray every day, pray ceaselessly, pray, pray, pray for the better world to manifest itself here right now. As you allow yourself to invest in prayer, the world begins to shift because you're polishing the knowing, your connection with the one. And you're less sensitive to feeling like you have to be right because you're aligning yourself with God, with love, and you're saying God's always right. There's always a good unfolding here, and I'm allowing myself to speak it, to see it, to know it, to stand in it. So you become the activation of change. There's examples, simple examples of change that you can do. These are so simple, you'll go, that works? Yeah, hugging a friend, telling the truth, holding the door open for someone, carrying groceries for someone, tipping generously, writing thank you letters to people that you love, taking the time to actually write instead of just letting it be a thought that flits by. Visit friends or relatives or people that you haven't seen for a while. Let someone in on the freeway Ooh, seriously, that too? Yeah. Open up the gateways. Pick up litter when you pass it. I watch people with that. You know, when you're in another country and you see litter everywhere, you realize how much the United States has done to take care of our land in that way. And so we want to continue to apply those principles and never just take it for granted. We have receptacles everywhere so that we can dispose of our litter properly. So when you're taking a walk, carry a bag with you and, you know, instead of complaining about, look at what somebody left, their McDonald's dinner on the driveway of someone else's home, pick it up. Pick it up and feel like you've made a difference in the world. Pay the toll for someone behind you, buy coffee for someone behind you. And I love this one, stop smoking. We won't elaborate on that one, but I thought, oh, that was in there. That was on a list from a site, Challenge the Day and Be the Change Movement. And they go on to say, create a special meal for your family. Enroll others in a change movement. Give someone the gift of really listening to them and share if you really knew me, and invite them to share theirs. Invite your stories into one another. It was interesting as I was looking through different things for the peace service this week. I was looking at a selection from Thich Nhat Hanh, who I really respect deeply. But he was talking about this generous listening and not interrupting your listening with your opinion. And I was sharing with the practitioner class later, I said, but then he ended it with, and then there'll be a time where you can't. I'm thinking, he really wanted to be right there. It was just really endearing how because his thoughts were elevated, and he said, just take the time to listen, and there'll be a time where you can interject a greater understanding, a greater truth. And he goes on, the list goes on to say, just say to someone that I love you, and just keep adding to that list. Find that list that speaks to your heart and start taking action on it. So Andrews Harvey, some of his inspirations that I want to highlight, he says, recognize your capacity to make a difference, whether it's grand or just small. Every action done with the consciousness of the sacred adds to the healing of the whole life system. Each of us has the power to make a difference in the lives of others and in our environment. So recognize your capacity. That's oftentimes where we start to build up the wall, because we think, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, when you allow yourself to immerse yourself in prayer, to know that it's not you doing it. When you allow yourself to be anointed with the sacred, to allow your hands to be the one of the divine offering out, you have the power. You have the wisdom to know exactly what to say and to do. And I appreciated this thought, because we are all aware right now, aren't we, that the world that we go to sleep in is not the same world that we wake up to. And we often discover that the moment we flip on our phone or turn on the computer. The headlines are right there to show what else there is to worry about or to be afraid of. And we can look at that and turn it off and say, I'm not going to live my day that way. Or we can look at it, accept it in a way that we say, oh, this is my prayer today. I pray for Korea. I pray for resolution. I pray. I pray for the earth and the storms to quiet down so we can take a breath. So there seems to be an overload of data and information that affects all the exterior ways in our world. And then we take that in, and our emotional and our physiological well-being begins to contract. And so that's when we say, I'm just turning away. And that's when we say, I won't be influenced by this. But as he expressed it, these ideas of these thoughts are like how did he write it? The psychic free radicals that kind of float out, just like we have them in our own body of foods that we eat. These radicals can cause us harm if we don't pay attention to purifying our diet. So is the diet of what we take in. And so it's all out there, penetrating our fields, because we're electromagnetic beings. We have the positive, negative poles. It's not for us to know what kind of impact we're going to make on the world. Let that go. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how glorious it is or if you get any recognition at all. Doesn't matter. Do it anyway. And you'll be surprised and blessed and anointed time and time again by someone turning back to you and saying thank you. And your heart will just bleed with love. It'll just open. I can't tell you how many times that I just get lost at the hospital doing what I'm doing, and that's just doing because I love the work and I love the people and I love wellness. And then someone will say, thank you, you changed my way today. I didn't want to talk about that, but we talked about it, and I thank you. And I'm just always so, they'll walk away and I'll be left with tears of gratitude for the spirit that dwells within me that has allowed me to continue to polish my way so that I can get outside of that part of me that is afraid and to speak anyway, to stand in the sacredness of all things. I sometimes question because I feel tired a lot of times, why did I choose to stand as a minister before you? I question myself often because I know as much as you do about a lot of things. And I'm vulnerable and I get my feelings hurt quite easy, but I'm getting stronger. But I ask myself, why am I doing that? And the answer always comes in the still of the night. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you hold these people and speak truth? Why wouldn't you do that? Even if you have nothing to say, your heart loves, and that's what the world needs. So that's what I do. I just stand. I stand in love. And there is a Buddhist mystic, Shantideva, who says this: all the joy the world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contained has come through wanting pleasure for oneself. So if I wanted everything just to be easy for myself, I would have, just stay at home and play and just be kind of selfish. But I'm here at every call. Mary's here at every call. So many of you are. Every practitioner is. We're here. And why? Because joy comes through wishing happiness through others. Robert Kennedy said, each time a person stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lots of others or strikes out against injustice, he or she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build up a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Those are such powerful words from his time, Robert Kennedy, to let us know that the smallest ripple can make the largest wave of difference. And all human beings are gifted with this divine consciousness. We all have that birthright, that capacity for courage, for generosity, and for selfless service. Selfless service. There is, in sharing, I want to really emphasize one of his ideas here. He has a list of 10 different things that will allow you to realize that you are the one making the difference. So he said, number one, things you can do right now. And so you just, I know you don't have pen and paper, but think about, be grateful. Be grateful for one thing. Be grateful for one thing that you are alive for today. What lights up your joy? And just kind of feel that. Just get in touch with your body and feel your body light up. And you do that every day until those blessings and those recognitions reveal to you what you believe in, what you value. That's important. What are your blessings? Number 2, and don't edit this, but you just immediately just think, what are 10 things that are really sacred and dear to me? And you just clip those off, and then you make a journal of those, and you look at those, and you think, that too frames my values, frames my life. I am grateful, and these are the sacred things that I recognize. And then he moves very quickly into the third, which is so important because this third one is what is holding your divine conduit stuck a little bit, and that is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Think of someone who has hurt you, betrayed you, and make a commitment to forgive. So you can imagine that that person is right in front of you right now, that they are a light, a human being, filled with the same ambitions and hopes, and yes, they hurt you. That's a given, but don't hold it any longer. It is done. And the forgiveness frees you both. Be humble, and with great sincerity, he expresses, it unveils your innate strength of compassion when you have the power to truly forgive. Set them free. Set yourself free. May all beings be happy and well. And so this letter of forgiveness is very powerful. The commission brought forward an elderly black woman face to face with the white man, Mr. Van de Broek, who had confessed to the savage torture and murder of her son and her husband a few years earlier. The old woman had been witness to her husband's death. The last words her husband spoke were, "Father, forgive them." One of the members of the commission turned to her and asked, "How do you believe justice should be done to this man who has inflicted such suffering on you, so brutally destroyed your family?" The old woman replied, "I want three things. I want first to be taken to the place where my husband's body was burned so that I can gather up the dust and give his remains a decent burial." She stopped, collected herself, and went on. "My husband and son were my only family. I want, secondly, therefore, for Mr. Van de Broek to become my son. I would like for him to come twice a month to the ghetto and spend a day with me so that I can pour out to him whatever love I still have remaining with me. And finally, I want a third thing. I would like Mr. Van de Broek to know that I offer him my forgiveness because Jesus Christ died to forgive. This was also the wish of my husband, and so I would kindly ask someone to come to my side, lead me across the courtroom so that I can take Mr. Van de Broek in my arms, embrace him, and let him know he is truly forgiven." The assistant came to help the old black woman across the room, and Mr. Van Broek, overwhelmed by what he just heard, fainted. And as he did, those in the courtroom, friends, family, neighbors, all the victims of decades of oppression and injustice, began to sing "Amazing Grace." You know, when you look at stories that are so potent like that, and to have the heart to truly walk in the path of forgiveness, to be so humble to know that you are doing your loved one's wishes, to forgive as well. Of course we can too. Of course we can. We stand in the arms of the divine, and that's what supports us and encourages us. He goes on to say, as I close this sharing with you about what you can do right now beyond the forgiveness, and this is why we invite you into classes, because it helps to prepare you in this way, but you read something from a spiritual text on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Look at what the mystics and the prophets of our world and of our time, here, now, and in the past, have experienced God directly, and they want to share that inspiration with you so you are quickened into that awakening. And when you're lit up from reading that text, then you offer the prayer that aligns you with the pure, deep love that is longing to use you as an instrument of peace. Some of his sweet little prayers: "Lord, let me live to be truly useful. Beloved, make me strong enough to do your will tirelessly. For as long as space exists and sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world." You find the prayer, you find a passage that inspires you and reflects to your very core what you believe, and you murmur that prayer all night long, all morning long, all afternoon, all evening, into the night. It's in the background, in your thoughts, not worrying about what's going on in the world, but offering the prayer, offering that, working the instrument of your heart. And you make that commitment a spiritual practice. And you watch your light expand into all directions. You will be transformed as you lose yourself, immerse yourself in prayer. You will be strengthened by your prayer, and this will in turn affect the people in your life as you check in with them, as you allow yourself to be willing to go towards them. You can even he goes on to do more tangible ones, is just skip a meal in a day, and whatever that was, $5, offer that to the global movement of world hunger, because there's still many people that live on just $1 a day. We can kind of out-talk ourselves of that, but it's so simple just to carry change in your pocket and to not care what happens where you give. Just know that you gave because you love. When you give from your love and you stop the gateway of your mind right there, you gave because you love. It is received and loved, and it transforms all that it touches. Don't worry about what happens. Continue to share. Continue to be that. This will release a power into you. Empty yourself of all your false perceptions. It will work as you continue to read the scriptures, to let the news move through you, and then distill into that space the wisdom of the teachings, and to really soak that in like you've never done before. This will allow you to find your true voice, that true voice, that speaks right from your heart, that doesn't hesitate, that can cry even as it tries to speak. You can be that change for good. As I share in closing the St. Francis prayer, it's one that Andrew Harvey shares with his people, his work. So join with me as you close your eyes and hear it like you've never heard it before. Yeah, stir your body a little bit, shift it a little bit. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Yeah, shift your body, shift your breathing, open your heart. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, O divine Master, feel it, breathe it. Grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born in eternal life. Those are powerful words. You can take one phrase and change your life. So join with me. Companions on the journey. We walk hand in hand, heart to heart, infused, each individualized expressions of this great vast love that permeates our universe, that permeates every sentient being, every animal, every plant, every insect, every fish, every cloud, every weather pattern. This love, this vast field of perfect love. We are an instrument. Let us truly allow ourselves to wake up to that knowing that all that we choose to do in our world is an act of selfless service to this love. No longer do we need to be patted on the back or encouraged through words of another. We know what our calling is, and we stand to the call, and we offer the depth and the truth of who we are. so that all suffering is touched by this love. That the last moment that anyone takes their breath, they remember that love was holding them. To every person that lost their life in an earthquake or a flood or a fire, we recognize this love holds everyone, and that the suffering eases as we recognize the eternality of all life, and that love keeps breathing its vast force through each of us. Oh, Divine Master, let us be humbled to our knees to remember the truth of who we are. And let us move this day in selfless service to the One. Every scripture has invited us to remember this truth. And today we walk away, awake and ready to be in service to the One. I give thanks for Andrew Harvey's wisdom, for all the networks of people out there banding together to make this the holy truth, the holy word, so that as we move into life from this moment forward, peace prevails. I release this word. I am deeply grateful for the attendance here, for the hearts that are open, for the hearts that are touched, for that which stirs inside of us as we listen to the still, small voice and we take action. Thank you, God. And so it is. Thank you.